Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I'm your host, Ken M., and sitting across from me this week is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Joining the panel this week, you know him from the ODPH Comics blog on the website, it's the Bra Guy Signal.
Hey, guys.
Folks, we have a lot to discuss, and let's waste no more time talking about it. The biggest TV event of the week had to be the return of The Walking Dead.
Finally,
after the mid-season cliffhanger, which, folks, we are going to be talking about spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, download this, watch the show, and then come back and join in the conversation. Hashtag ODPH. And it was dealing with the death of one of the original cast members on the show, one Carl.
never an easy thing or a small thing to deal with. A show that's been on as long as Walking Dead, I believe they're on season 8 as we record. Mm-hmm. It's never an easy thing when a show's been on that long where the cast really starts and has developed into a close-knit family. They are very close with each other. They care about each other. To lose a integral member of that cast, someone who's been there from the beginning, been through it all, seen it all, it's never easy, and it's always sad to see him go.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock because if you've been following the stories in the comics for years, Carl Grimes has survived basically everything that has been thrown at him.
And they've thrown a lot at him.
They have. And you can go through the back issues galore and go check it out. But he survived everything from gunshots to losing an eye to, just basically surviving Negan.
Everything but the kitchen sink, essentially.
Pretty much. And he's still in the books to this day. So when they showed him at the mid-season finale that he was bit, it was a shock, I will admit.
Yeah. You and I, especially having read the comics, I know you're more caught up than I am. I've been playing catch-up. But yeah, it was a shock for the both of us.
Yeah, because I did not see that one coming per se. I figured it was going to be another character. And obviously with dealing with Negan and All Out War and how that's been presented to the viewers at home has been really hit or miss. So obviously when they were saying that it's going to be a shocking ending, they delivered and then some.
Mm-hmm.
So now going into the return, they showed it was pretty much drawn out to the final goodbye of Carl, and you saw what happened and how he got bit and everything leading up to it. And obviously Negan, how he left the Rick's group, I guess you can call them. They don't have an official name, I don't think.
No.
How he left them at the end of the midseason. They were kind of on the run and trying to regroup because Alexandria was pretty much lost to him.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows, how the impact of Carl going away from the show was going to impact him.
I think for Carl, it was a beautifully poetic end because you had this character who, I'll admit, there was a number of moments in past seasons where I hated his guts and thought he should die because he was being ignorant and being foolish and jumping and doing things that he really shouldn't do.
I was going to say, I am several seasons behind, but I know what's going on. When I stopped watching the show, I pretty much hated Carl's guts. So when I heard, he got bit, I was like, I don't care.
Like I remember there was one episode, I want to say it was in season 4 or 5. I can't remember which exactly, but he got into an argument with somebody and then wandered off into the woods by himself alone with no weapon. And I remember watching going, you are an idiot.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? But his send-off was beautifully poetic, although I will say the visions or the imaginations he was having, specifically the bit with Negan, boy, you're getting ambitious with that thought.
Well, you could definitely tell he was dreaming a lot and dreaming of a unified Walking Dead world, I guess you could say.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Because the time jump was throwing a lot of people off because if you've seen how All Out War ends, they do a time jump at the end.
Let's say it's only 6 months to a year?
Believe so.
Something like that. And
just kind of going away from where he is in the books, where the time jump is, it's kind of throwing everybody off. Obviously, Carl's gone now. There's been some news of cast members also not getting their contracts renewed or renewing. We're kind of trying to track this down as we're taping the show, that they're really getting away from the books. Now, I want to pose this question to Bra Guy first. Now, as an avid comic book reader, and when we see that comics are coming to TV or movies or whatever form of media, How do you feel when they really differ away from the books?
I have no problem with it when they differ as long as it's done well. And I say this because there's a few good examples that I can think of, actually really two that are good examples of either or. Look at Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins from 2005. They changed the Batman origin slightly in the sense that the League of Assassins were the ones who trained Batman, and that's how he got the whole idea of how to become Batman, how to fight crime. I felt that movie worked. That worked for the movie, and it was really good. It was a great movie, and I still love it to this day. Then you have something like X-Men The Last Stand, which is, they tried to do the Dark Phoenix saga, and they achieved nothing with it. They just basically wiped their butts with the comics and the source material. So you have like two examples there of how they can either be really good or they can be really bad. And if they're done good, I have no problem with it.
Pat?
Me, by and large, in instances in the past, I really haven't had any issue with it. I'm a big Lord of the Rings Tolkien fan. I've read the books. I can't tell you how many times. You know, in the Fellowship of the Ring novel, there is an entire chapter, or at least 2 chapters, where he visits a character in the forest before he meets Aragorn and the rest of them that's not in the movie. You read the book, really wouldn't work in the movie. It would just ultimately bog the plot down and really slow everything down. It's good for if you read the books, but movies, it would just slow things down. And the other instance I can think of is, you know, with the Harry Potter novels, there were entire subplots cut out of from the books to the movie that aren't in the movies. Now, is it great to read them in the book? Yeah, sure. But ultimately, when you're making a form of medium that people are watching instead of reading, you have to keep it simple so that people don't have to have 3 timelines running in their head of, okay, here's what's going on with Ken in this movie. You know, he's doing X, Y, and Z. Oh, no, wait, no, I got to keep track of Brian because A, B, and C's going on. I've never really had any issue with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys about this. If it's really done well, I don't have any issue with it. But I think with something like The Walking Dead, which it's not meant to be a happy book.
No.
It's one of the more darker and I'll say depressing books, even though you're rooting for the group to survive, and with everything thrown at them, whether it's zombies, whether it's other groups, whether it's just the little things that, without fully going technology on it, that they're surviving. And that's where you really root. But Kirkman has done such an excellent job of just saying, you know what, this is a real life zombie apocalypse, as weird as that statement sounds. But main characters get killed off all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like a situation like this, as involved as Kirkman has been with this show from the beginning, I don't know for certain, but I feel confident in saying the decision to kill Carl off was not a decision made without Kirkman's say-so, if Kirkman didn't suggest it himself.
Yeah, and you know what? I also was wondering, too, when I saw Carl get killed off, is this more of a reaction to, like, anything can happen on the books? Because obviously when Glenn got killed, it definitely took more mainstream fans a little longer to get over it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And really turn some off. Whereas when you've read the comics, we all knew this was coming.
Oh, you and I, yeah, that was like the best cliffhanger I've seen in a TV show in a while, because you have you hear him hitting somebody over the head and, oh, who is it? You and I are sitting there smirking at each other because we know who it is. And then we had, what was it, like 6 months or so of people just speculating left, right, and center who it is, and we knew.
I was going to say, the Facebook page comicbook.com, they like every other day was like, oh, this is why Negan's kill had to be Rick, or this is why it had to be Glenn. And it's like, well, it is Glenn because, well, he's the one who gets offed in the comics by Negan.
Like, I think I remember at one point seeing a video online where like somebody had taken the audio from that scene and then like gone into some editing software or something and like really messed with it and gone, oh, you can clearly tell who it is here if you listen real close. I'm like, really? Is this a thing?
Yeah, no, everybody was really speculating, which was kind of cool. But I think that once they saw it, and kudos to the Walking Dead crew, because they kept it as authentic as possible to the books.
Oh, that was verbatim from the books.
And it's not meant to be nice. And
no.
Honestly, I was very shocked to see that it actually was in the original cut that made TV, because I was like, there's no way they can show this on TV.
I was going to say, I know there was a lot of people who they tried complaining because their kids were watching the show with them, and that AMC just came out and said, this is not a kid's show. This is TV, whatever.
MA.
It's TVMA.
It's like, that's all I said. It's like, this isn't a pretty show. It's not a happy show for your family.
I'll say they do have a viewer discretion advised at the beginning of every episode.
And in between commercial breaks as well. I mean, I thought they did a nice job of doing a red herring, so to speak, because when Denise was killed off in the show, that was how Abraham went out in the comics.
Yeah.
So obviously you're going, wait, if Abraham's still alive here, then who gets killed off later? And they did a nice job throwing it off.
Yeah.
I think the thing that gets me about the Carl is he's so tied to how the books are going moving forward. And without going too much spoiler on it, he's so involved in the next arc after All Out War that it's kind of going, how are they going to play this out? I have my theory about it, and my theory is it's going to be more Daryl-centric than Carl.
Daryl is the X factor in everything. I know every mid-season premiere and season finale, mid-season finale and season finale, there's a lot of speculation that Daryl's going to get offed.
Yeah, but I think he stays put. I think he's probably the safest character in that entire universe.
I would say so.
The fanboys would riot in the streets if Daryl got killed.
Yeah, that's like the one instance of like whenever you see a show, it's like, oh, if so-and-so dies, we riot. No, this is the one instance that I actually believe that.
It's like, I would go with 2. I'm pretty sure if Tyrion Lannister dies on Game of Thrones, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to riot there.
Well, I think that's due to happen when that show comes back. At some point, because it's Game of Thrones. I mean, that one is pretty much, something bad is going to happen to pretty much everybody on that show.
It's a
phase or another.
It's a close running behind Walking Dead for nothing good ever happens.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of telling that Kirkman has said he has an ending in mind, but obviously not an ending that he's willing to announce on the show or anything like that, because they still have a lot more stories to tell.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting now moving forward, because with Carl gone, All Out War has to get finished up. And like we said, we've heard rumors of other cast members looking at other projects going to be coming up next fall. They might not be on the show. So there could be a lot of moving and shaking going on. The only thing that I think we know is don't expect the expected.
No, yeah. And I think that's why I think they made the decision to kill Carl, is because you and I, by and large, for 8 seasons, have known what's going to happen. Sure, they've thrown a curveball. Sure, things have taken a left turn when we thought they were going to take a right. But by and large, we have known what's going to happen. I go back to the end of the last season or whatever it was when they killed off Glenn, and they didn't show it, but we knew it. This was a curveball to throw to you and I, because we know what's going to happen. We know how it's going to play out. And you comic book readers think you know what's going to happen? Here's a curveball.
Yeah, and I think it's a nice gesture to the TV audience, because you want to keep fans on their toes. And how they're going to react. I mean, the overwhelming response about Carl is it was very much a shock, and it was very effective in really showing that, hey, anything can still happen in this universe. You don't know who's next to go.
Yeah.
Because unless you're really, really fine-tuned paying attention, you never saw him get bit.
No.
You had an idea something might have happened, but then until you saw the end of the mid-season finale, you were like, whoa, when did this happen? Then you have to go back and rewatch.
Yeah.
And now going into the ending or end run of this season, they got to wrap up All Out War. And then obviously the next group comes in. And I expect a full-time jump. And I expect certain characters not to come back next season. Because I think that now with All Out War, you're going to start seeing the stakes get elevated more. And I think you're going to see more cast members getting eliminated from the show.
Well, which, if that happens, it happens. They don't necessarily have to kill them off per se. You can have a character go, hey, you know what? It's been great running with you and doing things. I've really learned a lot from you, but I'm going to go do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And they can ride off into whatever direction they want to go, which leaves it open for them to like bump into them down the road if they have an opportunity to come back on the show.
If it happens, but you know what? There's a lot more story to tell, and without going too much spoilery, you just have to wait and see.
Yep.
Hit us up on social media, #ODPHEE, to join in the conversation. Let us know what you thought of this past week's Walking Dead. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the second segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, and we got some comic news to discuss.
Yes, we do.
Now, if you've been living under a rock, you might have missed that Marvel Comics is doing another reset on their comics line.
So this is like I can't keep track of what number, but it's again in fairly recent history.
It's very recent from when they've done it the last couple of years ago, but this one is a little more intriguing, and I want to get the panel's thoughts on this, especially Brad, guys, because obviously being a big fan of the DC Rebirth universe run. What do you think about Marvel doing another reset this close to it?
Well, I mean, I feel like they have to. I mean, the reason I have been reading Marvel's comics is they're not that good. There's hardly any runs that I'm actually interested in. And I mean, the only one that I care for is the current run of Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think that's how you say his name. I can never pronounce it, even if I look at it. It's just they try too much to emulate their movies. And I am hoping with the relaunch of their comics that they're going to get away from that, because that's all they try to do is they have all their movies and they're very popular. I myself enjoy them, but then they try to emulate them too much with their comics and it just doesn't work.
Well, so I think from recent memory, the only, and I'm going to leave big multi-character, multi-comic crossovers out of this because obviously those are rather large. You know, Civil War II, for whatever you say about the line in the run, was a big run for them. Within the last couple of years, the only two comics that kind of had a storyline or a setup of comic issues come out that was of note and kind of made waves in outside of the comic book community was when they did Hydra Cap, and then when they did the thing with Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I mean, outside of, you know, the major Secret Wars or whatever it was, and then Civil War II and stuff like that, like, what else have they done that's kind of made news and made notes?
Well, I think there's been some strides to do some different things, but I know that the focus is kind of, it feels like it's shifted away from the comics line and more geared toward the movies.
Right.
And I think now with C.B. Cebulski now taking over as editor-in-chief, they have a lot of good ideas coming out. And, I mean, there's a couple books that are standing out that are coming out that really are like, okay, I'm really excited about this. Now, me personally, the one I'm more just intrigued by is the new Hulk book, where it's basically a horror comic book, where obviously Bruce Banner was taken out in Civil War II, and he's now back.
Right.
And it's something that no matter what happens to him, the Hulk comes out at night and is rampaging.
Interesting.
Yes, that he rises from the dead no matter what happens, and he's coming back and doing Hulk things, which I think is just such a cool idea that they haven't really kind of touched upon. Because I remember, like, way back when, if my memory serves me right, the Hulk used to just appear at night.
Right.
And then suddenly it just kind of evolved into he's the Hulk whenever he needs to be the Hulk. So now kind of seeing it, taking it back there, I find that to be a very intriguing read.
Yeah, no, that's very intriguing because all of a sudden you have the X factor of, you know, what's going to happen at night, where is he at night, how does it work when he's going from one place that's day and to another place that's night, you know, traveling from one place to another. That's a very intriguing.
Yeah, it's good. At least that's how I'm reading it. So when it comes out, I'm definitely going to check that out because I'm really excited to see the take on it, because the Hulk is a very tricky character to write, and if you can do it well, man, it pays off.
Right.
I was going to say the other one, I'm not really, I guess I got to say the one I'm curious what they're going to do with is what they're going to do with their X-Men lineup, because ever since when Marvel didn't have the movie rights to them, they were making efforts to kill off the X-Men. But now that the talk of the Fox merger deal with Marvel is pretty much in the works and it's probably going to happen, now they're trying to save their X-Men line. And it's like, are you already going to revamp these guys who aren't really that far into their new line of comics or what? It's like, I'm just curious. It's like, are you really going everything like clean slate, everybody, even the new stuff?
See, I don't know. The X-Men I have not seen too much of. The only thing I know for certain is going to be the wedding of Kitty Pryde and Colossus.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's the only thing
supposed to happen this summer around the time this is all taking place, supposedly.
I don't think
correct us if we're wrong, but
yeah, I think that's still on board to happen. I don't know if they're going to do like a number one reset or anything like that. I think they're going to keep that wherever book that's happening in, that's going to stay put. I don't see that one changing up too much. But it's going to be interesting to see what's coming out. I know Gail Simone's writing Domino, and she's getting her own series, which that should be phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
Gail Simone is a tremendous writer. If you haven't read her work, can't speak highly enough about her stuff. But the other book that's really kind of catching is the new Avengers lineup. Now, the lineup has got some familiar faces to the MC TV universe and the movie universe, with the exception of one. And when I'm breaking this down, you have Ghost Rider Robbie Reyes, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, Steve Rogers, Captain America, Tony Stark, Iron Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, She-Hulk, and Thor from the movies. So my question is, with this, the lineup is being stacked. They're obviously going to be having a lot to do with the Infinity War movie coming out. What do you think the ramifications are going to be in the book coming?
I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do with it, because I know in regards to the comics, they have taken the Infinity Stones and kind of, I don't know if revamped them is the right word, but they've changed the colors in the comics to match that of the movies. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do given Infinity War going forward, though.
Yeah, I think so too. Brian, any thoughts on that?
Not really, other than if they're revamping their Infinity Stones to match the movie. Again, it's like, are you going to just redo your comics to try to emulate the movies again, or are you going to go fresh with them?
Well, see, I think the thing with the Infinity Stones is more of it's a minor thing, in all honesty. Like if the stones are still the same, just they're changing the colors to match. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing for someone who hasn't read Marvel comics, doesn't really read Marvel comics, but they see some Marvel movies. They go, you know what? I think I might want to start getting into them. I think it's an aesthetic thing for them watching and knowing, okay, the blue stone in the movie does this, the red one does this, and so forth and so forth. But if you go to the comics and all of a sudden, okay, this one does something entirely different from the movies, I think it's just an aesthetic thing for them, for people jumping in.
And if that's what they're going with, then I'm totally fine with it, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they've got a lot of possibilities going. Like, I'm really excited at the direction they're going to be taking, because I think they're, with obviously the Hulk's take, and I know they're doing a Cosmic Ghost Rider. If you've been following the Thanos book, that's where he's coming out of. That should be an interesting book. I haven't read too much details on it other than the character. And I know they're doing a multiple man book who's coming out of the pages of X Factor. And I mean, obviously what happened at the Inhumans versus X-Men war.
Right.
So there's a lot of different takes that are going to be taken. I mean, I think that Marvel has taken a step in the right direction, but what I want to see is, okay, give this time to grow.
Yeah.
I was going to say, my thing is like, okay, they're going in the right direction, but can they follow through? Or is it just going to be like, hey, this is what we tried, but it fell flat?
And say they try, and then 2 years down the road, oh, hey, we're at another reset again.
Yeah, I think what they have to do is just keep pushing the characters and get back to the core Marvel essence. Because I think when you try competing too much with the movies should be their own separate entity, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, they can take source material and, portray it however they're going to do for the movies. But when it comes to your books, you just got to keep it to the basics.
I mean, my thing is, if you're going to emulate your movies, then I would have no problem if you wrote your comics to coincide with the movies, actually be part of the MCU. Mm-hmm. That would be okay. Like, instead of just doing an occasional one shot to set you up for an upcoming movie, like actually do like small arcs and whatnot of the characters like between movies.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on that.
Yeah, I kind of I haven't read all of them, but I've read a couple of the tie-ins leading into some of the more bigger Marvel movies. I've enjoyed them. I feel like it's added, not a whole lot, but it's added a few things to it. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a step in the right direction if they want to go that route. But I think overall, though, they're making strides to bring back Marvel to the House of Ideas, what they're always known for, and really taking unique takes on characters. And I think they need to, because obviously doing resets, you're losing your core audience.
Yeah. And
you can only do so much with the movie audience, because unless they're in the shops buying every week, is it really the fan base you want to go after? Or do you want to go after the ones that are reading since day one and always making theirs Marvel?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get somebody into the comics or to keep reading comics if they're reading a storyline they really, really like. And then you get to the end of that story arc, and maybe you'll have something filler in between that and the next story arc. And, oh, hey, by the way, before we get to that thing we've been hinting at, we're going to reset everything.
Yeah, because anytime you do a massive reset, and especially in a short amount of time, it can either hit or it can really miss.
And it doesn't look good.
No, and I think DC has done a great job coming out of the New 52, which at the time it was a very unique idea, and they gave it time to see where it went. Some books were good. Snyder and Capullo's Batman. Some were not. and you can kind of take your pick of what worked and what didn't. Braga?
I was going to say, I know the Green Arrow New 52 run wasn't overly popular, and when they did Rebirth, what they did was they wrote it to say, like in the actual storyline of Rebirth, they said, hey, things got screwed up with the New 52, and they wrote it into the story, into the fact of where they're going now with the Watchmen. And it was Dr. Manhattan was messing with the timeline, so that's why stuff in the New 52 wasn't right.
I'll say, wasn't it with Rebirth, the first issue came out, and they're like, oh, yeah, you've lost like 5 years of your memory wiped from your mind or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, they did kind of a playful reboot, tease of, okay, well, this is what happened. This is, we're just wiping away the New 52.
It kind of let them be able to take the good stuff from the New 52 and carry it over, and then also get rid of all the stuff people didn't like. And they've succeeded very well. All of the runs I've read for Rebirth have been great.
Oh, Rebirth stuff has been great. Christopher Priest's run on Deathstroke, phenomenal.
And he's gonna fight Batman in about 2 months.
Yeah, which I can't wait to see. I'm super excited on that.
So the interesting thing for me for Rebirth was reading some of the Justice League stuff where of course you had New 52 Superman die and old Superman came in. And this is the Superman who's been tried, true, and tested, and been through what and back. He's fought in Doomsday, he's fought in Lex, and everything else. So he, if there's a guy who's been through the grinder, it's him. And he comes into this crew with the Justice League that looks, and it's the same crew he knows, but they know it's not their Superman, and there's an inherent mistrust amongst them with him initially.
Yeah, and it was a unique take, and obviously with Superman, you have so much history with the character.
Yeah.
That there's so many different directions you can go. I'm even more excited to see what Bendis is going to do when he gets his hand on the franchise.
Yeah, Action Comics 1000 is going to be something very interesting to see.
Yeah, not for the simple fact of we are now going to be witnessing 1,000th issue.
Which is insane.
Yeah, to sit there and think about that Superman or Action Comics is going to be hitting that. Detective is going to be next. You're getting near the 700s, 800s of issues if they go back to original.
I'll say, yeah, you could
numbering.
go if time travel were actually a thing, you could go back in time and tell the Superman and Batman creators that your character is going to hit 1,000 issues in the future. They would have looked at you and said you're out of your mind.
Yeah, but just to sit there and think about it, I mean, and that just shows true testament if you write a character right and it's drawn right and the story is presented, it can stand the test of time. And bringing this back to Marvel is going to be doing the same thing too. But it's just a matter of taking it back to where the characters and the story should be. Because if you can do it right, the books will sell, the TV shows will sell, the movies will sell, and it's a win-win for everybody involved. Folks, let us know what you think. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHEE. If you're excited for the new Marvel reboot, what's the books we should be checking out? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. And there's a little show going on this weekend.
You might have heard of it.
Not Excite Wrestling, but you should watch that if you have the ability to get down to the American Legion Post 80 or in Binghamton, New York, or watch on Twitch TV. No, we are talking about the Oscars.
Yeah, the 90th annual.
Now, it's kind of a big deal with movies, but for us here on the ODPH, we decided to do our own awards, the Parlays. And where we're kind of focusing with this is there's a lot of movies of the sci-fi comic book genre that really don't get their shine at these award shows.
No, all they really ever get nominated for is like best sound editing or best special effects, but they never get like those big awards like best actor from like Guardians of the Galaxy or something. But like just like they never get up there. They never get the spotlight.
Yeah. So what we decided to do for this week's Entertainment Edition is we wanted to give out our awards in 3 categories: Best Picture, Best Actor, and Best Actress. Because we feel that there's a lot of great movies that came out last year for 2017 that should be nominated and they should be winning some awards. And frankly, if they don't get one, they're going to get a parlay. So we'll start off with Best Actress, Pad, do you want to lead your award winner?
Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia in Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Excellent choice.
I know it's a posthumous award, sort of like Heath Ledger got a number of years ago with The Dark Knight, but I feel it is one that she rightly deserves, not just for her work in Star Wars The Last Jedi, but for her entire repertoire of films and shows she has been in. It is a long list. It is a memorable list. One scene that sticks out in her acting career to me most vividly is in The Blues Brothers, where she's standing down the sewer or whatever it is, and she's standing there holding a rocket launcher at Jake and Elwood, and she shoots it, and they both duck to the ground, and then Jake goes on that big, long speech of why he didn't contact her.
Such a classic movie, and obviously Carrie Fisher was Princess Leia, and for the final film, unfortunately, she just absolutely knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely. Just her finest performance.
Yeah, as Princess Leia, and you know what? It definitely helped the movie to achieve what, I thought was a great movie, but she definitely added to that film.
Absolutely.
Bry Guy, who's your pick?
I'm going to go with, sorry if I pronounce her name wrong, Daphne Keane from Logan, who played Laura, a.k.a. X-23, a.k.a. Logan's clone daughter.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
Despite being so young, I believe she's only 13 or 12, if I remember correctly. She just nailed it with her performance. Like, I could really believe that she was this kid who had been through hell and just was treated horribly, and just her attitude and the charisma she brought to her role, I just felt she nailed it for being so young.
I'll say, yeah, the facial expressions, particularly when she was angry or mad or going into a fight, like, you genuinely get the feeling if you watch
really
that film.
thought like she was a pissed off little kid.
Yeah, you go watch the film, you watch for the scenes where she's angry, she's mad, and you watch her facial expressions specifically. It genuinely looks like she's going to leap off that screen and come rip your arm off.
She definitely stole that movie, and she did a tremendous performance. Tremendous. So definitely parlay worthy. My pick for the parlay, though, for Best Actress has to go to Gal Gadot.
Oh, of course.
For Wonder Woman. For being in the DC film universe, she stole Batman vs. Superman.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When she came on the screen, she owned it as Diana Prince. She made that movie more about her than the two major characters that it was supposed to be about.
I'm pretty sure it was actually about Martha.
That was for another show. And we can go on and on about the bad of Batman Superman. But the good, if not great, about it was Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. And then when she finally got her own film, knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely.
Plus, I mean, shout out to her. She was pregnant while she was filming that movie.
That's true.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, she was. I don't remember exactly how many months, but she was very much pregnant during the filming of that movie.
But she just made that role into her and into just an iconic role. Because coming out of the TV show with Linda Carter being Wonder Woman, it's tough shoes to fill. And she made her version of Diana Prince the one that is memorable.
Yeah, it is like
it's equal. Like, I can't say there's like a good or bad.
Yeah,
she really embodied what a hero should be. Like, she was in World War I, and she's like, no, we have to help all these people. And Chris Pine's like, no, that's not our job right now. And she's like, no, I can do this. We gotta help people. That's what a hero does. They don't just use their powers for fame or anything. They use them because they can help people in situations, and that's what she did.
If you want to look for a true definition of a hero, you look to her performance as Wonder Woman. So the parlay goes out to her. Excellent choices, gentlemen. Excellent choices. So moving on to Best Actor. Pad, who is your parlay?
I know if Hollywood were to classify this, he wouldn't be a lead actor, but for me, he was Patrick Stewart in Logan. Easily, he's always been great as Professor Xavier in the films. Never had an issue with him. Always been great. His performance in that movie, especially the scenes where mentally he was not doing great, where he was, the scene in the silo or whatever it was, where he's riding around just spattering off nothing to us, but in his head it makes some bit of sense, and you can just see how much pain he's in physically and mentally. Just an absolute home run knock out of the park.
Without question, Patrick Stewart is Charles Xavier, and man, did he ever deliver in his final performance as him.
Hashtag Picard over Kirk.
Ooh.
Any day.
Shots fired.
Any day. We're going to get some tweets about that. Bry Guy, what's your take?
Andy Serkis in War for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay, excellent choice there.
A lot of people will probably overlook it because, okay, he was a CGI character, which is something I want to talk about quickly for those of you who don't know. How that movie was filmed with motion capture technology. And to do that, that means all this stuff was animated for Andy Serkis to look like an ape. But he had to do all the movements, all the facial expressions, and all of the acting to make that happen. And then they add the CGI to that. All of his emotions that he showed in that movie and his movements, that was all him. There were scenes in that movie that, based on his performance, they made me feel for him really bad. Just for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a heart-wrenching scene when his family is taken from him and then he's reunited with his infant son, and you're just like, oh my gosh, you feel for this guy as if he's an actual human. And I feel like he's just a really underrated, underappreciated actor just because a lot of his roles have been motion captured.
That's one area, too, where we say the parlays really stand out because we recognize that because motion acting isn't typically considered in the awards.
No, it's not at all.
And it's the same thing with voice acting, too, because you have to deliver the performance. And no matter how you're portraying it and demonstrating it, it's still a performance and should still be noteworthy. And Serkis, no matter what he does, he knocks it out of the park, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, he did, for those of you who don't know, he did all of Gollum's movements in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the first Hobbit movie, and even he also did the motion capture movements for Snoke.
Yep.
Yeah, in Star Wars Force Awakens. Excellent choice there, Bri. My pick, I'm going to the same movie that Pad mentioned, but I'm taking the man, the myth, the legend himself, Logan, Hugh Jackman. Hugh has been Wolverine since the inception of the X-Men on film.
2001?
Yeah, he's the longest. He's the actor to hold the same superhero role the longest.
Yes, and with good reason, because Wolverine, if he's not portrayed well, and this is the same thing you can go in the comics, can either be really great or really bad. Jackman's portrayal is the definitive Wolverine. It's the one you want to look at when you're comparing him of how great the character can be. Because it's easy to say that somebody with an insane healing factor, adamantium skeleton, and adamantium claws that can cut through basically everything is an unstoppable force. But it takes more to develop a humanity side to him and the battle between animal and man. And with Jackman in Logan being thrusted into the role of he's now defeated, the X-Men are no more, he's now taking care of Xavier, and he gets thrusted into the role of a father figure, taking care of X-23, and going on the wild chase across America, is just truly an imaginative storytelling of how he just changes roles, and every single Wolverine movie he's in is a different take on him.
I was going to say, and the really funny thing is, I don't know if you guys know this, he wasn't even supposed to be the first Wolverine.
I do know this.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actor's name, but
Doug Scott Gray.
He was in the Mission Impossible 2 movie, and the filming for Mission Impossible 2 got delayed, and it was setting X-Men behind because he was supposed to be Logan, and then Hugh Jackman auditioned because they had to start filming Wolverine scenes. Hugh Jackman got the role.
Say it's one of those things, you see it sometimes in movies and TV shows where not the person they originally wanted. At the time, it seems like, oh man, this isn't great, but in the end, ended up working out pretty good.
It's Dougray Scott. I apologize for that. Dougray Scott.
So, who gets the parlay here?
You gotta get all three are winners because you know what, it's our award show and we can do this.
This is true.
Yes. True.
Yes. So you know what? They're all winners in my book. So moving on from that, best picture, Pad, lead us in.
I think it's going to be fairly obvious which one I choose. Star Wars The Last Jedi, for me, it is what I basically work my entire year around. It's the one I'm looking forward to the most. It is the one that as soon as it's over, I want to see it multiple times. While in the back of my head, I'm eagerly anticipating the next one. I know there are some that didn't enjoy it. There are some, online that, have their issues with it. For me, however, I did not. I loved it. It was everything I expected it to be, and it left me. It didn't go. It went places I didn't think it would go. The path it took along the story certainly was one filled with twists and turns I did not see coming. At least not in that film. but it left me very intrigued to see where the finale of this trilogy goes.
Excellent choice. Braga?
Well, that's where it gets funny. Mine's actually not a comic book movie. I'm going to go with my best picture was Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Okay.
Break it down.
I obviously was way too young to see the first Blade Runner when it came out in theaters, and I only saw it after I knew the second one was coming out, and I thought the first one was okay. I didn't understand the hype behind it, but I really liked the look of the second one, and the second one, 2049, was what I thought the first one was going to be. It has lots of action and intense sequences. It's a beautifully shot movie. And the storyline is very compelling, and it really makes you question what humanity is when you're in a world where you can just make humans left and right to do your job for you. And it was such a compelling story, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I loved it. I just loved every second of it.
Excellent choices, gentlemen. Excellent choices. Mine is pretty obvious. I am taking Logan as Best Picture for the Parlay Awards. Logan, to see the story of Old Man Logan come to life, albeit changes from the comic books, and this is due to obviously characters not belonging to the same studios.
Right.
It was really well done of seeing how Logan, obviously with the demise of the X-Men and where he is, and obviously there's some new characters thrown in the mix of him, on his final run, so to speak, and ensuring that his clone daughter, as he finds out, is, surviving under the anti-mutant state of the world, so to speak, is truly compelling. And just top to bottom, it wasn't even so much of a superhero movie. It was just a great movie. Acting was superb. Special effects was as great as you can imagine. The action was there, but it had heart to it. And you knew, obviously, growing up watching the X-Men, either if it's the cartoon, the movies, you knew that, as you're saying your final goodbyes to the characters, it really hit home of how much that they stood out.
Yeah, and you think about it, the original X-Men came out in like 2000, 2001. That came out last year. It's kind of like the bookend to a very long story with those characters. It starts off with Professor Xavier and the whole crew, and it kind of ends with, Professor Xavier and Logan, and it is the perfect send-off for both Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, and easily their best performances out of any of the X-Men movies.
Oh, without question.
I mean, you got to think the last time you saw those two in a room in those same roles was at the end of Days of Future Past, and they're both smiling at each other because Logan fixed everything in the past, and Xavier knows who he is, and he's glad Logan remembers, and they just exchange a smile, and then Logan starts, and you're like, okay, that's long gone.
You would think, because the one thing about Old Man Logan, the storyline, is it's pretty much an alternate timeline. It's not set in stone. I mean, that's the one great thing Marvel has, is when they go into different timelines, there's one linear continuum, and then everything else can kind of spawn off. So it's not to say that Logan is going to be the end of the X universe on film, but if it is, it's a heck of a send-off.
Absolutely.
So, folks, let us know what you think. That was our nominees for the Parlay Awards, so congratulations to the award winners.
And for those of you who want a more detailed list, be sure to check the blog. I will list out more categories such as Best Supporting Actor, Actress, Score, and Cinematography. I will list all that on the blog in the next week or so.
So definitely check it out. Hit us up on the website. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHEE. So that's all we got for this week. So for the Bry Guy Signal, for Padawan J, I'm your host, Ken M. You've been listening to the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. We'll see you next time.